Imagine a world that never stops talking. Every moment there's noise, opinions, advice, debates, judgment, distraction. In such a world, the loudest often seem the most powerful. But real power, real strength, does not scream. Real strength lives in silence. Silence is the unseen current beneath the surface, the calm depth of a river that carries more force than any raging torrent above it. Silence is not weakness. Many mistake quietness for submission, for indecision, for fear. They see someone who speaks less, who does not engage in every argument, who refrains from reacting to every provocation, and they assume that person is small, powerless, inconsequential. But this is a profound misunderstanding of the nature of power. The quiet mind is a sharp mind. The silent soul is a disciplined soul. There is an enormous reservoir of energy, focus, and clarity that accumulates in the spaces between words, in the pause before action, in the decision to watch rather than react. When you stop reacting impulsively, you conserve something far more valuable than energy alone. You conserve your will, your influence, your dignity. Every time you respond to noise, to provocation, to expectation, you expend a piece of yourself. But when you learn to step back, to pause, to observe, you gather strength, you gather knowledge. You see patterns that others cannot see because they are too busy shouting, too busy proving, too busy reacting to the superficial drama of life. Quiet observation allows you to understand the world in a way that the restless mind cannot. When you are silent, you notice subtleties, the hidden tensions in conversations, the unspoken motives behind people's actions, the delicate balance of energy in any environment. You begin to perceive not only what is visible but also what is concealed. You develop an instinctive understanding of human behavior, and you sense the undercurrents that guide events long before others even recognize they exist. In that space, you are not just present. You are perceptive. You are aware. You are prepared. Silence creates a form of presence that words often cannot convey. It is the calm authority that does not need to justify itself. When you act from silence, your actions carry weight, precision, and inevitability. There is a difference between making noise to be heard and moving with quiet purpose that demands attention. The first is reactive, the second is deliberate. And it is in deliberate, considered action that true power manifests. Moreover, silence allows the mind to process and reflect. In the absence of constant external stimulation, thoughts can breathe, ideas can mature, insights can crystallize. Creativity and clarity thrive in stillness because they are not competing with a flood of distraction. In the quiet, you confront yourself honestly. You see your own motives, your own weaknesses, your own patterns. This is not easy. Most people fear the mirror of introspection, but it is in facing yourself that you cultivate strength no external force can give you. Consider the analogy of the stone in the stream. Water rushes past fast and loud, carving shallow paths in the sand. But the stone, silent and unmoving, shapes the flow around it, altering the course of water not by forceful action, but by enduring presence. Silence allows you to shape the environment, the conversations, and even the perceptions of others. Not by reacting, but by existing with purpose, by moving with awareness, by being strategically present. Silence also protects your energy. In a society obsessed with attention, with constant engagement, with proving oneself to everyone, quietness is a shield. By not responding to every impulse, every criticism, every challenge, you conserve your resources. You do not scatter your power. You concentrate it. And when the moment comes to act decisively, when the right opportunity presents itself, you can unleash your strength fully, without hesitation, without depletion, without compromise. Importantly, silence cultivates patience and timing. Reacting impulsively often leads to regret, wasted effort, and unnecessary confrontation. Waiting, observing, and calculating your response allows you to strike at the moment of maximum impact. It is not weakness to wait. It is wisdom. And in the realm of human interaction, in business, in relationships, and in personal growth, wisdom is the ultimate form of power. Finally, the strength of silence is also psychological. When others attempt to provoke, to test, to challenge you, your calm, measured response, or even the refusal to respond, creates an aura of unshakable authority. People are unsettled by the one who does not react according to their expectations. Your stillness becomes your statement. Your silence becomes your dominance. You communicate more in what you do not say than in everything you could ever utter. So, embrace silence not as absence, but as presence. Not as submission, but as strength. Not as weakness, but as power. Recognize the energy that lies dormant within you when you choose stillness over noise, reflection over reaction, patience over impulsivity. Understand that observing quietly, building steadily, and acting deliberately is the pathway to influence, mastery, and self-command. Because when the moment demands action, the quietest person in the room can command the greatest authority. The one who has built power in silence will strike with clarity, precision, and unstoppable force. And in that space, you will realize that silence was never empty. It was preparation. Silence was never passive. It was strategy. Silence was never weak. It was the strongest force you had all along. Remember this: in a world that rewards noise, the one who chooses silence is the one who ultimately shapes it. In the calm, your mind sharpens. In the pause, your strategy forms. In the quiet, your power grows. Silence is not weakness, silence is strength, and from that strength, everything else flows. While the world obsesses over outward appearances, the loud, the flashy, the immediate real transformation occurs quietly, behind the scenes. Growth that is profound, lasting, and undeniable is not made for applause. It is cultivated in solitude, in reflection, in deliberate practice that few notice until the results are undeniable. This is the paradox of true power. The more deeply it is nurtured in silence, the more impossible it becomes to ignore. Inner growth begins with self-awareness. To evolve, to shift your reality, you must first understand your own mind, your impulses, your fears, and the patterns that govern your behavior. The world will not pause to accommodate your journey, and the noise of external validation will always beckon, tempting you to measure progress by the reactions of others. But the awakened understand that progress is not performed for observers. It is forged internally, quietly, methodically, with discipline and honesty. Consider the analogy of a sculptor working in a dim studio. Day after day, they chip away at the raw stone unseen by the masses. Each strike is deliberate. Each correction is precise. The masterpiece exists first in the mind of the sculptor, not in the eyes of the audience. Similarly, inner growth occurs first in the quiet chambers of your mind, in the moments when no one is watching, when you confront your weaknesses, and when you reinforce your strengths. This is where character, resilience, and clarity are formed, far from the shallow validation of the world outside. The process is not glamorous. It is filled with discomfort, with confrontation, with the challenge of facing yourself. You encounter aspects of your personality you would rather ignore, the impatience, the anger, the insecurities. This is the shadow work Jung often described, the essential task of acknowledging and integrating the darker parts of your psyche. True growth requires this courage. To avoid it is to remain trapped in superficiality, reacting endlessly to the external world while remaining a prisoner of your own internal limitations. Growth behind the scenes is also about consistent action. It is the unseen hours, the unnoticed repetitions, the disciplined practice that, over time, compounds into extraordinary results. The world may not recognize it, but the results cannot be hidden forever. Just as a seed grows beneath the soil, gathering strength from water, nutrients, and sunlight, your personal development builds quietly, gradually, and inevitably. And when the time comes for your emergence, it appears sudden, effortless, almost magical, but it is the result of unwavering dedication in silence. Patience is an inseparable companion to inner growth. Modern culture prizes instant gratification, the visible and the immediate, yet transformation is rarely instant. It is a process that respects the natural timing of the mind and the soul. The individual who understands this moves without haste, builds without need for applause, and cultivates skills, discipline, and character with a quiet intensity. They know that what is constructed in silence carries the deepest roots and withstands the fiercest storms. Another dimension of inner growth is emotional mastery. Those who grow quietly learn to navigate the turbulence of their own mind without surrendering to it. They cultivate calm in chaos, clarity in confusion, and resilience in adversity. By doing so, they create an inner foundation that is unshakable, enabling them to act decisively when opportunities appear and to respond with wisdom rather than reaction. Emotional control is not suppression. It is understanding, it is refinement, it is awareness. It allows you to move through the world with grace, authority, and integrity. Equally important is intellectual and psychological expansion. Inner growth involves seeking understanding, reflecting on experiences, analyzing outcomes, and synthesizing lessons. It is a continuous dialogue between your inner self and the external reality. You ask difficult questions. Why do I react this way? What do I truly value? How can I navigate this challenge with purpose rather than impulse? The answers are rarely simple, but in pursuing them, you cultivate depth, insight, and a mind that is prepared for complexity, uncertainty, and change. Furthermore, quiet growth fosters creativity and innovation. In the absence of distraction, your mind can explore ideas freely, make connections that others miss, and envision solutions before anyone else even recognizes the problem. This unseen mental labor is what eventually manifests as breakthroughs, achievements, and the unmistakable aura of someone who operates on a level beyond the ordinary. Finally, the fruits of inner growth are revealed when the world is least expecting them. Like a quiet river carving a canyon over centuries, your preparation, discipline, and self-mastery eventually shape the landscape of your reality. Those who doubted, underestimated, or ignored you will stand in awe. But by then, it is too late to question the strength that has been cultivated quietly, methodically, and deliberately. Understand this. The visible accolades, the applause, the recognition, they are consequences, not the purpose. Your focus is inward, on mastery, on growth, on becoming more than you were yesterday. The world may never see the effort that went into your transformation, but it will unmistakably feel the power of its results. The individual who grows quietly becomes unstoppable, not because of external validation, but because they have built their foundation on the unshakable terrain of self-awareness, patience, and deliberate action. Inner growth behind the scenes is the ultimate strategy. It is where true power begins. It is the space where you prepare, evolve, and refine every aspect of your mind, emotions, and character. It is where the seeds of the future are planted. And when those seeds bloom, they will bloom spectacularly, inevitable, undeniable, and profoundly transformative. Perception is the lens through which reality is experienced, and it is far more powerful than most realize. Every thought you hold, every belief you nurture, and every assumption you make subtly shapes the world you inhabit. The awakened understand that reality is not an objective constant. It is fluid, influenced by the mind that perceives it. Those who master perception do not merely survive in the world, they shape it. To begin, perception requires awareness. It demands a conscious recognition that the mind is constantly filtering, interpreting, and even distorting information. Most people live passively within the frameworks imposed by others. Society, culture, media, and inherited beliefs dictate what they see, how they interpret events, and ultimately, how they respond. They react without question, assuming the world as it appears is fixed and absolute. But the awakened know better. They understand that the world is as much a reflection of their inner state as it is of external circumstances. This understanding transforms how one approaches life. To perceive effectively, one must first silence the noise, the automatic judgments, biases, and distractions that cloud clarity. When the mind is quiet, perception becomes precise. You begin to notice subtleties, patterns, and connections that remain invisible to the ordinary observer. These are not trivial observations. They are the building blocks of wisdom, strategy, and insight. In silence, clarity arises, and clarity allows action that is decisive and impactful. Perception is also intimately tied to emotional mastery. Emotions are not merely reactions, they are interpretative tools that signal meaning and value. The individual who masters perception can observe emotions without being overwhelmed by them. They recognize that anger, fear, desire, or sadness are not enemies to suppress, but indicators to understand. Through emotional intelligence, they interpret the undercurrents of human behavior, seeing motivations, intentions, and vulnerabilities that remain hidden to the reactive mind. This allows them to navigate relationships, conflicts, and opportunities with unmatched precision. The power of perception extends to self-awareness. How you perceive yourself, your abilities, and your limitations defines your potential. Many are trapped by self-imposed boundaries, seeing themselves as less capable than they truly are. The awakened, however, perceive the fluidity of their own potential. They recognize that skills, resilience, and understanding are cultivated over time, and that their current self is merely a starting point, not a ceiling. This perception fuels growth, allowing them to expand, evolve, and transcend limitations that others accept as immutable. Perception also influences how the external world responds to you. When you hold a mindset of clarity, confidence, and purpose, it projects outward. People respond to energy, intention, and presence even before words are spoken. The awakened understand that the way they perceive themselves and their environment directly shapes interactions and outcomes. A discerning mind combined with controlled perception is a force multiplier, quiet, subtle, yet undeniably powerful. Furthermore, perception requires discernment. Not all information is valuable, and not all experiences carry the same weight. The awakened mind knows how to prioritize, filter, and interpret meaning accurately. They are not distracted by trivialities or the superficial. They focus on the underlying currents, the forces that shape events, behaviors, and opportunities. In this way, perception becomes a strategic tool, allowing them to act with precision and foresight, avoiding wasted energy and unnecessary conflict. Another critical aspect is the perception of time. Those who are awake see beyond the immediate moment. They perceive patterns that stretch across days, months, and even years. They understand cause and effect, the long arc of consequences, and the ripple effects of actions. This temporal awareness enhances decision-making, allowing them to invest in actions that yield significant long-term results, while avoiding impulsive reactions that may bring temporary satisfaction but lasting complications. Ultimately, perception is the gateway to empowerment. When you understand that the world is interpreted through the mind, you realize that control is not exerted by external forces alone. It begins within. By mastering how you perceive challenges, people, and opportunities, you gain influence over outcomes that others assume are random or dictated solely by circumstance. This internal mastery transforms reality itself, turning obstacles into lessons, resistance into insight, and uncertainty into opportunity. Perception also fosters creativity and innovation. When the mind perceives connections and patterns that others overlook, it can generate novel solutions, anticipate challenges, and envision futures that remain invisible to the ordinary thinker. This is not mere imagination. It is an applied intelligence born from clarity, awareness, and deep understanding. The awakened mind turns perception into action, and action into results that leave a lasting impact on the world. Finally, the power of perception is revealed in its subtlety. It is not loud, boastful, or aggressive. It does not seek recognition or approval. It operates quietly, efficiently, and with precision, and yet its effects are undeniable. Those who underestimate it may only realize its potency when it has already reshaped the course of events, elevated the individual, and transformed the environment around them. The awakened understand this, and they cultivate perception deliberately, patiently, and with unwavering focus. In essence, perception is not passive observation. It is active mastery. It is the ability to see the world clearly, interpret it accurately, and respond with wisdom. It is the mind's greatest tool, and those who wield it consciously are unstoppable. By honing your perception, you gain clarity, control, and the power to navigate reality with precision. It is the bridge between thought and action, awareness and influence, potential and manifestation. Master your perception, and you master your world. Decision is the bridge between thought and action. It is the moment when intention crystallizes into reality, and it is the defining factor that separates those who remain stagnant from those who evolve. Most people approach decisions with hesitation, influenced by fear, doubt, and external expectations. They wait for the perfect moment, consult endlessly, and seek validation from others, unaware that indecision is a silent form of surrender. The awakened, however, understand that mastery of life begins with mastery of choice. Decision is not merely a reactive act. It is a deliberate exercise of will, clarity, and insight. To begin, disciplined decision-making requires self-awareness. Before choosing, one must understand the terrain of the mind, the biases, emotions, and impulses that silently shape perception. Without this awareness, decisions are merely reactions, tossed by the currents of circumstance and opinion. The disciplined mind observes these forces, acknowledges them, and learns to distinguish between what is essential and what is trivial. This is the foundation of conscious choice, recognizing that every decision carries weight, and that the power to shape life lies in selecting the path that aligns with one's highest principles and deepest purpose. Time is a critical factor in decision. The majority of people either rush, making impulsive choices that lead to regret, or delay indefinitely, paralyzed by fear of the unknown. The awakened understand that decision is a dynamic balance between reflection and action. Reflection allows for clarity. Action converts insight into reality. Discipline does not mean hesitation. It means choosing with purpose, committing fully, and accepting the consequences with courage. Every moment of indecision is lost potential, a fragment of life surrendered to chance rather than directed will. Another essential aspect is emotional mastery. Emotions are powerful signals, but they are not always guides. Fear, anger, desire, and excitement can distort judgment if allowed to dominate. The disciplined decision-maker observes emotions without being enslaved by them. They use emotions as information, not instruction, allowing intuition and reason to converge. This creates a space where decisions are informed by wisdom rather than impulse, strategy rather than ego, and foresight rather than reaction. Decisions made in this space are precise, resilient, and transformative. Discipline also requires detachment. A decision should never be a hostage to public opinion, validation, or approval. The awakened mind understands that life is a personal journey, and that true power arises when choices reflect inner truth rather than external expectation. This detachment allows one to choose boldly, even when the world doubts, misunderstands, or resists. It is the discipline to act in alignment with purpose, not popularity. To remain unwavering in conviction, even in the face of uncertainty. Consistency is another cornerstone. Discipline is not merely the ability to choose once. It is the ability to choose repeatedly, day after day, in alignment with long-term vision. Each small choice accumulates, compounding into momentum that defines destiny. The awakened understand that extraordinary lives are built not by isolated moments of brilliance, but by the disciplined orchestration of countless aligned decisions. The power lies in persistence, in adhering to principle and purpose, and in allowing the compound effect of disciplined choices to shape reality. Decision also requires courage. Every choice carries risk, the risk of failure, loss, misunderstanding, or regret. Those who remain passive seek safety in indecision, yet safety is an illusion. Life unfolds regardless, and indecision often leads to stagnation, missed opportunity, and the quiet erosion of potential. Courage is the willingness to face uncertainty, to accept responsibility, and to act decisively even when outcomes are unknown. It is the understanding that failure is not final, that setbacks are lessons, and that each choice, even imperfect, is a step toward mastery. Reflection after decision is equally critical. The disciplined mind does not judge itself harshly, but analyzes outcomes, learns, and adjusts. Success is celebrated, failure is examined without attachment, and both are used to refine the decision-making process. This iterative approach strengthens intuition, hones foresight, and increases confidence. Over time, the mind becomes a precise instrument of choice, capable of navigating complexity, ambiguity, and pressure with grace and effectiveness. Finally, the ultimate discipline is alignment with self. Decisions are not merely tactical, they are the expression of identity, values, and vision. The awakened understand that when choices align with the deepest truth of being, every decision resonates with authenticity and power. Life ceases to be reactive or chaotic. It becomes an intentional, conscious unfolding. Each step forward is deliberate, each action meaningful, and each outcome a reflection of inner mastery. In essence, the discipline of decision transforms life from a sequence of random events into a coherent, directed journey. It converts thought into action, potential into reality, and vision into legacy. Those who master the art of decisive, conscious, and aligned choice navigate life with precision, resilience, and extraordinary impact. Master your decisions, and you master your destiny. Resilience is the invisible armor of the awakened. It is not merely the ability to endure hardship, but the art of transforming challenges into catalysts for growth. Life, in its unpredictable design, will test, strain, and at times shatter expectations. Those who surrender to circumstance allow adversity to define them. The awakened, however, understand that true power is revealed not in comfort, but in the deliberate, conscious response to trials. Resilience is not passive endurance. It is active transformation, a constant recalibration of energy, focus, and purpose in the face of difficulty. To cultivate resilience, one must first understand the nature of suffering. Pain, loss, rejection, and failure are inevitable, but they are not permanent. They are teachers, mirrors reflecting both vulnerability and potential. The awakened do not resist or suppress discomfort. They observe it, understand it, and integrate it. Each setback becomes a lesson, each disappointment a guide, and each failure an opportunity to refine strategy and character. Resilience emerges not from avoidance but from deep engagement with the realities of life. Central to resilience is emotional regulation. The human mind, when flooded with fear, anger, or despair, becomes reactive, disoriented, and vulnerable. The disciplined individual cultivates the capacity to observe emotions without being consumed by them. This is not detachment in the sense of indifference. It is awareness, the ability to feel deeply while maintaining clarity. In this space, action is deliberate, not impulsive. Choices are informed, not reactive, and setbacks are opportunities for recalibration rather than excuses for stagnation. Emotional mastery transforms vulnerability into strength and chaos into clarity. Resilience is also a matter of perspective. The awakened mind understands the fluidity of reality. Today's obstacle is tomorrow's stepping stone. Every hardship contains a seed of insight, a hidden path forward. By reframing adversity as a catalyst for growth, one shifts from victimhood to agency, from reaction to intentional response. Perspective turns pressure into momentum, resistance into opportunity, and challenge into evolution. It is the lens through which life's turbulence becomes a narrative of empowerment rather than defeat. Action is inseparable from resilience. It is not enough to endure internally. The awakened convert insight into motion. Each step, however small, carries forward energy, vision, and intention. Action affirms the mind's sovereignty over circumstance. It is the deliberate application of learned lessons, the willingness to continue, and the refusal to succumb to inertia or despair. Resilient action is not chaotic. It is precise, purposeful, and aligned with one's deeper goals. The world tests, but those who act consistently are never defeated. They are refined. Consistency and repetition fortify resilience. Like a muscle, the capacity to recover, adapt, and grow strengthens with use. The awakened create routines, practices, and disciplines that reinforce endurance, meditation, reflection, physical training, deliberate focus, and self-observation. These habits are not merely mechanical. They are intentional strategies to build robustness, sharpen perception, and sustain energy. Over time, resilience becomes instinctive, a default mode that allows one to navigate life with grace, fortitude, and unwavering purpose. Connection and support, paradoxically, enhance resilience. While the awakened cultivate inner sovereignty, they recognize the strength found in alignment with allies, mentors, and like-minded individuals. Wisdom shared, encouragement offered, and guidance received amplify the capacity to persist. Yet true resilience remains self-rooted. External support supplements, but does not replace, the inner foundation of endurance, adaptability, and agency. Reflection and learning are essential components of resilience. Every challenge faced, every failure experienced carries data. The awakened mind extracts patterns, insights, and strategies from adversity, transforming experiences into actionable intelligence. Resilience is not blind repetition. It is informed adaptation, a continuous evolution of thought, behavior, and character. The resilient individual grows stronger not despite adversity, but because of it. Finally, resilience is inseparable from purpose. Hardship is bearable, endurance is meaningful, and struggle is transformative when anchored in a vision greater than self. The awakened align challenges with long-term goals, ensuring that every trial contributes to growth, mastery, and fulfillment. Purpose provides direction, motivation, and clarity amidst the turbulence of life. Without it, resilience becomes mere survival. With it, resilience becomes the engine of transformation, empowerment, and extraordinary living. In essence, resilience is not an abstract trait. It is a deliberate practice, a conscious cultivation of endurance, awareness, and purposeful action. It turns suffering into insight, failure into momentum, and obstacles into opportunities. Those who master resilience navigate life with confidence, courage, and unwavering clarity. In every trial, they do not merely endure, they evolve. Perspective is the lens through which reality is interpreted, shaped, and ultimately experienced. It is not merely a passive observation of life, but an active choice in how one engages with existence. The awakened understand that events themselves are neutral. Meaning is assigned by the mind. Two individuals may experience the same circumstances, yet one will collapse under the weight, while the other will rise, transforming the challenge into growth. Perspective, then, is the ultimate tool of empowerment. It dictates whether life's trials become prisons or portals to evolution. At its core, perspective requires self-awareness. The awakened mind constantly interrogates its own assumptions, biases, and interpretations. Why do certain situations provoke fear, anger, or despair? Why do specific outcomes feel devastating while others inspire relief or elation? By understanding the patterns of thought that shape experience, one begins to untangle emotional reactivity from objective observation. This awareness creates space to choose response over reaction, understanding over confusion, and mastery over surrender. Perspective is inherently tied to the concept of impermanence. Nothing in life remains static. Emotions, situations, and relationships all evolve over time. The awakened recognize that pain will pass, triumph is transient, and every moment carries the seed of change. By embracing this truth, one develops the ability to navigate turbulence without losing equanimity. Challenges that once seemed insurmountable are reframed as temporary hurdles, and setbacks are viewed as lessons rather than punishments. This awareness fosters resilience, fortitude, and calm clarity in the midst of life's storms. Empathy further deepens perspective. The ability to step outside oneself, to imagine another person's experiences, motives, and fears, expands understanding and reduces the grip of ego-driven judgments. The awakened mind appreciates that everyone operates within their own reality, constrained by their history, emotions, and perception. By cultivating empathy, one shifts from judgment to comprehension, from resentment to detachment, and from conflict to strategic alignment. Perspective is not only personal clarity, it is relational intelligence, the ability to navigate social dynamics with grace, insight, and influence. Perspective transforms challenges into opportunities. A failure, when viewed narrowly, appears as a defeat. Yet through the lens of an expansive mind, that same failure reveals lessons, gaps in understanding, and paths for improvement. Adversity becomes a mirror reflecting both weakness and potential. The awakened do not shy away from discomfort. They interrogate it, extract meaning, and convert it into strategic advantage. Perspective allows one to act decisively, not from fear or reaction, but from insight and foresight. Time is also a crucial component of perspective. Immediate pain often clouds judgment, while long-term vision provides clarity. The awakened cultivate patience, recognizing that outcomes unfold over months, years, or even decades. Impulsive reactions are replaced by deliberate strategy, short-term frustration by long-term planning, and momentary anger by enduring clarity. Perspective is the ability to situate oneself both in the present and within the continuum of one's life narrative, understanding the transient nature of setbacks and the enduring impact of disciplined action. Gratitude and humility are twin pillars of perspective. By acknowledging the lessons embedded in both success and failure, the awakened maintain balance and poise. Gratitude shifts focus from scarcity to abundance, while humility anchors ego, preventing triumph from breeding arrogance or stagnation. These qualities enhance decision-making, emotional regulation, and strategic foresight. Perspective is the balance of awareness, insight, and groundedness, a synthesis that allows the mind to perceive truth, opportunity, and possibility simultaneously. Finally, perspective empowers choice. Every action, every decision is filtered through the lens of how one perceives reality. A narrow reactive perspective binds one to fear, limitation, and repetition. An expansive conscious perspective opens doors to creativity, influence, and mastery. By mastering perspective, the awakened individual is no longer a victim of circumstance. They become the author of their experience, the director of their energy, and the architect of their destiny. In essence, perspective is the mind's superpower. It transforms ordinary experience into extraordinary insight, fleeting pain into enduring growth, and random events into strategic opportunities. Those who cultivate perspective navigate life with wisdom, clarity, and composure. Every challenge is no longer a threat, but a canvas upon which mastery, growth, and purpose are painted. When you shift your perspective, you shift your reality.